Captain Do-hyun wiped his sweaty palms on his uniform pants as he stood outside the massive doors of the United Earth Defense Council chamber. 20 years of work had led to this moment. Behind these doors sat the people who could either make his dream real or destroy it forever. "They're ready for you, Captain," said the young assistant who had been watching him pace for the last 10 minutes. Do-hyun nodded and straightened his back. He was not just representing himself today. He carried the hopes of his entire team, especially Lieutenant Jae-yun, who had worked countless nights helping him perfect the designs. The doors opened with a soft hiss. Do-hyun walked into a large round room with tall windows that showed Earth's curved surface far below. 50 council members sat in rising tiers, their faces stern and questioning. Most of them were military officers and scientists who had spent their whole lives building traditional spaceships. Do-hyun knew his ideas would challenge everything they believed in. Dr. Nam-gil sat in the front row, his silver hair neat and his uniform perfect as always. He had been Do-hyun's teacher at the Space Academy, but now he was the strongest voice against new ideas in ship design. His small smile told Do-hyun this would not be an easy presentation. "Captain Do-hyun," said Admiral Park, the head of the council, "you may begin." Do-hyun touched his tablet, and a large hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed his ship, the ESS Haitei. Even as a hologram, it looked different from every other ship in Earth's fleet. Where other ships were smooth and streamlined, the Haitei had a hull that looked almost rough, with patterns that seemed random at first glance. "Distinguished members of the council," Do-hyun began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "I present to you a new kind of warship. We have always tried to make our ships stronger by making better armor and shields. But what if we could turn our enemies' weapons against them instead?" A murmur ran through the council members. Do-hyun continued, "The ESS Haitei doesn't just block enemy attacks, it catches them and sends them back." He played a video showing their test results. In the simulation, enemy energy weapons hit the Haitei's unusual hull. Instead of exploding or being absorbed, the energy moved across the hull's pattern like water in a river, gathering at specific points before shooting back at the attackers. "Impossible," Dr. Nam-gil said loudly. "Energy weapons can't be redirected like that. The power requirements alone would tear the ship apart." "With traditional hull designs, yes," Do-hyun agreed. "But the Haitei's hull pattern creates natural energy pathways. We don't need extra power because we're using the enemy's own energy against them." Laughter started somewhere in the back of the room. Soon more council members joined in. Dr. Nam-gil stood up, his face red with anger or embarrassment. Do-hyun couldn't tell which. "This is ridiculous," Dr. Nam-gil said. "You're describing magic, not science. Energy doesn't flow like water. This design breaks basic physics laws that every first-year cadet knows." Do-hyun tried to explain further, but the laughter grew louder. He saw some council members recording the presentation on their personal devices, probably to share with friends later as a joke. Admiral Park raised her hand for quiet. "Captain Do-hyun, while we appreciate your creative thinking, this council deals with serious matters of Earth's defense. We cannot waste resources on impossible dreams." "But our tests," Do-hyun started, "were clearly flawed," Dr. Nam-gil cut in. "I've seen better scientific method from high school students. You've embarrassed yourself and the academy that trained you." Do-hyun stood straight, his face burning but his voice calm. "History is full of people who were laughed at before they were proven right. I ask you to at least look at our test data. I think we've seen enough." Admiral Park said, "This meeting is over." As Do-hyun gathered his materials, he heard Dr. Nam-gil talking loudly to other council members. "To think he was once my best student. Too much imagination, not enough respect for basic science." Walking out of the chamber, Do-hyun found Lieutenant Jae-yun waiting for him. Her usually bright face was dark with anger after watching the meeting through the chamber's public video feed. "They're wrong," she said fiercely. "We've run the tests 100 times. The design works. I know, Du Hyun said quietly. But being right isn't always enough. We need to. He stopped as his tablet beeped with an urgent message. His face went pale as he read it. What's wrong? Jae-yun asked. Someone uploaded my presentation to the Galactic Network. It's spreading fast. He showed her his tablet, where the video was already getting thousands of views and mocking comments. Look at these primitives, one comment read. They think they can break the laws of physics with their crude technology. The worst comment came from Ambassador Hyun-ki, the Archean Empire's representative to Earth. This proves what we've been saying. Humans are not ready for full membership in the Galactic Council. They still think like children playing with toys. Jae-yun put her hand on Do-hyun's shoulder. Let them laugh. We know something they don't. Do-hyun looked at her curiously. What do you mean? Last night, I found something in our latest simulation. Something amazing. She pulled out her own tablet and showed him a new set of data. Everyone's so busy laughing at how our hull handles energy, they're missing the bigger picture. Watch what happens when we adjust the power flow like this. Do-hyun's eyes widened as he watched the new simulation. That's impossible. Run it again. Jae-yun ran the simulation 3 more times. The results were the same. The HFY's strange hull didn't just redirect energy. Under the right conditions, it multiplied it. If we can build this, Jae-yun said, her eyes shining, it won't matter who's laughing. We'll change everything. Do-hyun looked back at the council chamber doors, then at the spreading ridicule on his tablet. He made his decision. Contact the team, he said. Tell them to meet us at the lab tonight. If the council won't help us build the HFY, we'll find another way. As they walked to the elevator, Do-hyun thought about the ship's name, the HFY, a creature from Korean mythology, known for punishing the wicked and protecting the just. Soon, he promised himself, everyone would understand why they had chosen that name. The sun was setting behind Earth's curve, painting the sky in deep reds and purples. Somewhere out there, beyond the colors of Earth's atmosphere, humanity's enemies were watching and laughing. Let them laugh, Do-hyun thought. The universe had a way of teaching hard lessons to those who underestimated their opponents. He and Jae-yun stepped into the elevator, already discussing plans for their secret project. They had 6 months until the next fleet deployment review. 6 months to prove everyone wrong. 6 months to turn mockery into miracle. Neither of them knew that they had even less time than that. In deep space, Archean warships were already gathering, preparing to teach humanity a lesson about its place in the galaxy. But they would soon learn a different lesson, one about the danger of judging things by their appearance, and the mistake of laughing at those you think are beneath you. 6 months passed quickly in the secret workshop on the far side of Earth's moon. Captain Do-hyun stood in front of his ship, the ESS HFY, touching its unusual hull. The metal felt cool under his fingers. Most people thought the strange patterns on the hull were ugly, but to him, they were beautiful. Each curve and line had a purpose, like the lines on a leaf that carried water to every part of the plant. Final system check is complete, Captain. Lieutenant Jae-yun called from inside the ship. She walked down the ramp, holding her tablet. Dark circles showed under her eyes from working long nights, but she was smiling. Everything works exactly like our simulations predicted. Better than the simulations, said Ta-1, their weapons officer, following behind her. He had joined their team 3 months ago, when most other weapons experts had refused to work on the joke ship. But Ta-1 had seen something special in their design. The energy capture rate is 10% higher than we expected. Do-hyun nodded, feeling proud of his team. They had built this ship in secret, using their own money and working on their off hours. Some had lost friends over it. Others had been laughed at. But they had stayed true to their goal. Sun Mai, their navigation officer, rushed into the workshop. She was the youngest crew member, fresh from the academy. Captain, you need to see this. She turned on the main screen. It showed an emergency broadcast from the United Earth Defense Fleet. Du Hyun's heart sank as he read the message. Archean warships have attacked 3 human colonies, Sun Mai said, her voice shaking. They came out of nowhere. Our shields, they aren't working against their weapons. The screen showed scenes from the battles. Earth's best ships fired at the Archean vessels, but their shots bounced off advanced shields. When the Archeans fired back, their energy weapons cut through Earth's shields like they weren't even there. They'd been playing with us, Ta-1 said angrily. All these years of peaceful trade, they were just studying our weaknesses. The emergency broadcast changed to show Admiral Park. Her face was tired and worried. All Earth defense ships are ordered to mobilize immediately. This is not a drill. Report to your nearest command center for deployment orders. Do Hyun looked at his crew. This is it. Our chance to prove what the Heta can do. They'll never let us fight, Jae-yun said. They still think we're a joke. They don't have a choice, Do Hyun replied. They need every ship they can get. 2 hours later, the ESS Heta approached Earth Defense Command. Other ships were launching too, their engines bright against the dark sky. Some captains sent mocking messages when they saw the Heta. Look who came out of hiding. Hey Do Hyun, going to catch some energy in a bucket. Turn back before you embarrass yourself more. Do Hyun ignored them. He focused on landing his ship in the busy docking bay. As soon as they landed, a command officer rushed up to them. Captain Do Hyun, your ship is assigned to evacuation duty. You'll be helping civilians escape from Colony 7. Evacuation. Ta-1 burst out. We're a warship. We can fight. Those are your orders, the officer said firmly. Colony 7. Now, as they flew toward Colony 7, Do Hyun's crew was quiet. Through the windows, they could see flashes of battle in the distance. Earth's fleet was losing badly. This isn't right, Sun Mai said softly. We could help them. We will, Do Hyun said, one way or another. They reached Colony 7 as the sun was rising over its main dome. Hundreds of civilian ships were already leaving, carrying families away from the danger. The Heta's job was to protect them and guide them to safe jump points. Everything was going smoothly until Sun Mai shouted, multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light speed. Archean signatures. 3 Archean warships appeared, their dark hulls gleaming. They were hunting civilian ships, picking off the slow ones with their energy weapons. Captain, Jae-yun said, please tell me we're going to do something. Do Hyun looked at his crew. Each face showed the same determination he felt. This ship was built to protect people. That's exactly what we're going to do. He pressed the ship-wide communication button. All hands, prepare for combat. This is not a drill. The Heta turned, putting itself between the civilian ships and the Archeans. The enemy ships paused, probably surprised that such a small vessel would dare to challenge them. They're scanning us, Jae-yun reported, reading our hull pattern. Wait, they're laughing. I'm picking up their communications. They recognize us from the video. They're calling us the joke ship. Perfect, Do Hyun said. Ta-1, power up all systems. Jae-yun, prepare the energy capture grid. Sun Mai, plot us a course straight at their lead ship. Straight at them? Sun Mai asked, surprised. Trust me, Do Hyun said. Let's show them why this ship is named after a creature of justice. The Archean ships fired, probably expecting to destroy the Heta with one shot. Their energy beams struck the hull. And something amazing happened. Instead of exploding or breaking apart, the Heta's strange hull patterns began to glow. The energy from the Archean weapons didn't pierce through. It flowed along the hull's curves and lines, gathering at specific points just like in their simulations. Energy capture at 60%. Jae-yun called out excitedly. No damage to our systems. Impossible, came a message from the Archean ships. Their hull is too primitive to have energy shields. We don't need shields, Do Hyun said quietly. Ta-1, show them why. Taiwan pressed his controls. All the energy they had captured shot back at the lead Archean ship, following the same paths their own weapons had used. The Archean vessel's shields, designed to block normal weapons, did nothing against their own energy turned back at them. The lead ship's hull cracked, emergency lights flashing across its surface. The other two ships backed away, surprised by what they had seen. "Should we run?" one Archean commander asked another over their open channel. "From that primitive vessel? Never. Full attack." Both ships fired everything they had at the HFY. The hull glowed brighter and brighter as it caught more energy. Inside the ship, the crew held on as power flowed through their systems like a river about to burst its banks. Energy capture at 120%. Jai-yun shouted. "Sir, we're not just catching their energy. We're multiplying it." Do-hyun smiled. "Send it all back. Let's show the galaxy what this primitive ship can do." The HFY released all its captured power in one massive burst. The energy blast hit both Archean ships at once. Their shields shattered instantly. Their hulls, made to resist normal weapons, melted under the force of their own energy turned against them. When it was over, 3 damaged Archean ships were floating dead in space. The civilian ships were safe, and the ESS HFY, the ship everyone had laughed at, stood unharmed. "Message from Earth Defense Command," Sun Mai said, her voice filled with awe. They're asking how we did that." "Tell them we'll explain everything," Do-hyun said. "But first, we have more colonies to protect." He looked at his proud crew. The Archeans thought humanity was primitive and weak. Time to teach them how wrong they were. As the HFY moved to its next target, Do-hyun thought about all the people who had laughed at his ship. Soon they would understand what his team had known all along. Sometimes the best ideas were the ones everyone thought were impossible. In the distance, more Archean ships were approaching. They still thought they were hunting weak prey, but they were about to learn a hard lesson about underestimating their enemies. The ESS HFY, the ship they had mocked, was coming for them, and it wasn't going to show any mercy. News of the ESS HFY's victory spread quickly through Earth's fleet. The ship that everyone had laughed at had destroyed 3 Archean warships without taking any damage. But Captain Do-hyun and his crew had no time to celebrate. More Archean ships were attacking human colonies, and the HFY was needed everywhere. "Captain," Lieutenant Jai-yun called from her station, "Earth Defense Command is sending us new orders. They want us to protect the mining colony on Mars. It's under heavy attack." Do-hyun looked at his crew. They were tired after 3 days of constant fighting, but their eyes still showed determination. "How many enemy ships at Mars?" Sunma, the young navigation officer, checked her screens. 7 Archean battleships, sir. They're bigger than the ones we fought before." "Good," said Taiwan from his weapons station. "More energy for us to use against them." The weapons officer had learned quickly how to turn enemy attacks into powerful counterstrikes. The HFY jumped through space to Mars. The red planet looked peaceful from far away, but as they got closer, they could see the flashes of battle. Archean ships were firing at the colony's protective dome, while the few remaining human defenders tried desperately to stop them. "They're targeting the colony's air supply systems," Jai-yun reported, her voice angry. "If those break, everyone inside will die." Do-hyun pressed a ship-wide communication button. "All hands, prepare for multiple targets. This time we're not just defending. We're attacking first." The HFY flew straight into the middle of the Archean fleet. The enemy ships turned to look at this small vessel that dared to challenge them. For a moment, nothing happened. Then all 7 Archean ships fired at once. "Energy streams incoming," Jai-yun shouted. "Maximum power." The HFY's strange hull lit up like a star as it caught the enemy fire. The energy flowed along the hull's patterns, gathering and growing stronger. Inside the ship, the crew felt the power building up like thunder before a storm. "Sir," Jai-yun said excitedly, "I think I can do something new with the energy. The hull patterns aren't just paths. They're like lenses. We can focus the power. Show me, Du-hyun ordered. Jae-yun's fingers flew over her controls. The captured energy, instead of flowing randomly across the hull, began moving in perfect circles. Each circle aimed at a different enemy ship. Ta-1. Du-hyun said, "Target their engines first. Let's see how they fight when they can't run away." Ta-1 grinned and pressed his firing controls. The HFY released 7 perfect streams of energy, each one hitting an Archean ship's engines. The enemy vessels, suddenly unable to move, started firing wildly in panic. "They're scared," Sun Mai said, watching the Archean ships try to fight back. They've never seen anything like this before. The HFY moved like a dancer between the enemy ships, its hull catching their desperate attacks and turning them into more weapons. Each time they fired, they only made themselves weaker, and the HFY stronger. "Message from the Archean commander," Sun Mai reported. They're asking how this is possible. They say our technology is too primitive for this kind of power. "Send them my reply," Du-hyun said. "Tell them that sometimes the simplest answers are the best ones. Nature taught us how to guide energy, just like rivers guide water. We didn't need fancy technology. We just needed to understand the basic rules of the universe." One by one, the Archean ships lost power as their own energy was turned against them. Soon all 7 mighty battleships were floating helplessly in space, their crews forced to call for rescue. The Mars colony was safe, but Du-hyun's crew didn't stop to rest. They had learned something important in this battle, something that could change the whole war. "Look at this," Jae-yun said, showing Du-hyun her screen. "Each time we use the enemy's energy, we learn more about how their weapons work. I can see patterns in their power systems now. Weaknesses we can use." Do-hyun studied the data. "Send this to Earth Defense Command right away. Other ships might not be able to do exactly what we do, but they can use this information to improve their shields." "Sir," Ta-1 called out, "you should see this too." He showed them a recording from the battle. "Watch how the hull patterns move when we're at full power. They're not just carrying energy. They're alive with it, like the ship is breathing." The crew gathered around to watch. The HFY's hull patterns did seem to move, shifting slightly as energy flowed through them. It was beautiful and a little scary at the same time. "That's why the Archeans can't beat us," Sun Mai said softly. "They think machines have to be perfect and smooth. They don't understand that nature's patterns are stronger." A new alert sounded. More Archean ships were attacking another colony. Without being ordered, the crew returned to their stations, ready for another fight. "They still think they're stronger than us," Du-hyun said as the HFY prepared to jump through space again. "They think that because they have better technology, they must be better fighters. But they forgot something important." "What's that, sir?" Jae-yun asked. "They forgot that humans have been studying how to turn enemy's strength against them for thousands of years. Sometimes the clever fighter lets their opponent tire themselves out. Sometimes the smartest way to win is to let your enemy's power become their weakness." The HFY jumped toward its next battle. Behind them, the 7 defeated Archean ships floated in space, their crews finally learning a lesson about respecting their enemies. On Earth, engineers were already studying the HFY's success. Soon more ships would carry similar hull patterns. The Archeans had started this war thinking they would easily defeat humanity's primitive technology. Instead, they had awakened something they didn't understand: human creativity and determination. Ambassador Hyun-ki, watching the reports of the HFY's victories, was no longer laughing at human technology. For the first time, he felt afraid. The simple patterns that he had mocked were now the galaxy's deadliest weapon, and the humans were just getting started. As the HFY flew toward another battle, its hull glowing with captured energy, Du-hyun thought about all the people who had laughed at his design. He didn't feel angry anymore. Sometimes the best revenge was simply proving that you were right all along. The ship that everyone had mocked was now humanity's strongest defender. and it would keep fighting until the Archeans learned to respect Earth and its people, or until they learned the hard way why you should never underestimate those you think are beneath you. 1 month had passed since the ESS Hetai's first battle. Earth's shipyards were busy day and night, adding the special hull patterns to every ship they could. Captain Du Hyun and Lieutenant Chai Yun had shared all their research, helping other engineers understand how the technology worked. The Hetai itself had become famous. Children made toy models of it, copying its unusual hull patterns. The same videos that once mocked the ship now showed its victories. Even Dr. Namgil, who had laughed the loudest at Du Hyun's design, had admitted he was wrong. But the war wasn't over yet. The Archean Empire had gathered its largest fleet ever, 500 warships, for one final attack on Earth. They hoped to win through sheer numbers, believing that even the Hetai couldn't fight so many ships at once. Du Hyun stood on the Hetai's bridge, looking at the massive enemy fleet through the main window. His crew was tired after weeks of fighting, but none of them showed fear. All Earth defense ships, report in, came Admiral Park's voice over the communication system. One by one, 200 Earth ships answered. Each one now carried the Hetai's special hull design, though none worked quite as well as the original. Captain, Chai Yun said from her station, "I've been studying the energy readings from our previous battles. I think I found something new about the hull patterns." "Tell me," Du Hyun said. Every discovery about their ship had proved useful so far. "The patterns don't just capture energy. They talk to each other. When two ships with our hull design fight together, they can share power, like holding hands to become stronger." Du Hyun thought about this. "Send this information to all Earth ships. Tell them to fight in pairs, supporting each other." The Archean fleet moved closer to Earth. Their ships filled the sky like angry storm clouds. Ambassador Hyun-ki's voice came over all channels. "Surrender now," he said, "and we will spare your planet. Continue fighting, and we will destroy everything." Admiral Park responded for Earth. "We've learned something important from the Hetai. The biggest fleet doesn't always win. The strongest weapons don't always work. Sometimes the clever solution beats the powerful one." The Admiral paused, then added, "And we've learned something else too. Never laugh at an enemy's ideas. You might find out they were right all along." The battle began. 500 Archean ships fired at once, filling space with deadly energy beams. But Earth's fleet was ready. The ships paired up, their hull patterns glowing as they caught the enemy fire and shared it with each other. "Energy capture at 200%. Chai Yun reported excitedly. "The shared power system works even better than I thought." The Hetai led Earth's counterattack. Working together, pairs of Earth ships caught the Archean weapon's energy and sent it back stronger than ever. The enemy fleet's mighty shields began to fail under their own power turned against them. "They're trying to retreat," Sun Mei called from her navigation station. "Their engines are at full power." "Not this time," Du Hyun said firmly. "Todd 1, target their engine systems. Let's finish this." The Hetai's weapons officer nodded and fired. The ship released all its captured energy in perfect streams, hitting engine after engine in the Archean fleet. Other Earth ships followed their example, trapping the enemy fleet in place. Ambassador Hyun-ki's voice came again, but this time it shook with fear. How can such primitive technology defeat us?" "Because you never understood what makes humanity strong," Du Hyun answered. "We learn from everything, even from nature. You thought power meant having the biggest weapons. We learned that true power means using your enemy's strength against them." The battle ended faster than anyone expected. The mighty Archean fleet, which had planned to destroy Earth, now floated powerless in space. Emergency rescue pods carried enemy crews away from their dead ships. Admiral Park's voice rang out, "All Archean forces, you are defeated. Earth accepts your surrender." The celebration on Earth lasted for days. The ESS Hetai and its crew received the highest military honors. Dr. Namgil personally apologized to Do Hyun in front of the whole defense council. "I was wrong," the old scientist said. "I was so sure I knew everything about ship design that I couldn't see a new idea when it was right in front of me. You've taught us all an important lesson." 1 week later, Do Hyun and his crew stood in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Hyun Ki, who had once called humans primitive, now had to formally welcome Earth as a full member of the galactic community. The ambassador's voice was humble as he spoke. "We judged humans too quickly. We thought our advanced technology made us superior, but you showed us that innovation comes in many forms. The HFY's design will change shipbuilding throughout the galaxy." After the ceremony, Do Hyun found his crew looking at their ship through the council hall's huge windows. The HFY floated proudly in space, its hull patterns glowing softly in the starlight. "Hard to believe they used to laugh at those patterns," Taiwan said, smiling. "They're not laughing anymore," Jae-yun replied. "Now everyone wants to know how it works." Sun Mi pointed to some alien ships nearby. "Look, some of them are already copying our hull design." Do Hyun felt proud, not just of his ship and crew, but of what they had proved to the galaxy. Humanity wasn't primitive or weak. They were clever and determined, able to find solutions that no one else had thought of. "What's next, Captain?" Jae-yun asked, now that the war is over. Do Hyun looked at the stars through the window. "Now we explore. There's still so much to learn out there. And maybe some more impossible ideas to try." The ESS HFY had changed everything. The ship that everyone laughed at had become a symbol of human innovation. It had shown the galaxy that sometimes the best ideas are the ones that seem impossible at first. As Earth celebrated its victory and new place in the galactic community, Do Hyun thought about all the young engineers and scientists who would be inspired by the HFY story. They would know that being laughed at didn't mean you were wrong. Sometimes it just meant you were thinking in new ways that others couldn't understand yet. The ship that had shown no mercy to its enemies had taught the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Never underestimate those you think are beneath you, because sometimes the ones you laugh at today will be the ones you admire tomorrow.